Some people boast that they have the recipe for the greatest chocolate cake or the best pizza. But if you believe that there is a best recipe, you are denying yourself the pleasure of other recipes. It reminds me of the people who believe that there is only one beautiful color, such as this woman who wants everything to be pink, or this woman who wants everything to be yellow. They are denying themselves the beauty of other colors. But before I discuss this issue, I want to bring two other issues to your attention first. The foods that we frequently boast about as being the best are often high in sugar and fat and low in nutrition. Second, a lot of those tasty foods are difficult to make, and they make a mess in the kitchen that requires a lot of cleanup. For example, to fry an egg so that the edges are crispy will fill the house with smoke, splatter oil around the stove, and make messy frying pans. Getting back to the issue of best foods, I use pizzas as an example because most of us love pizza. The key to understanding how silly it is to believe that there is a best pizza is to realize that a pizza is just a piece of bread with some topping. Most people realize that pizza can be made on different shapes and types of bread, including muffins and crackers. But I'm surprised at how many people believe that the topping to a pizza must be a thin layer of tomato sauce, a lot of cheese, and a few other items sprinkled on top. Although we could define the word pizza to refer to only this particular recipe, that would mean we would need to create thousands of other words for all of the variations, which would be ridiculous. It's more sensible to describe a pizza as any type of dough with any type of topping. I'll start with a simple example, before shocking you with what I have been eating almost every day for the past few months. I make a pizza crust by grinding a mixture of whole grains into flour, and making either two thin discs or a thicker disc that I saw in half. The dough can be plain or flavored. Here is bread with some sliced red onions on top. The primary difference between my pizzas and the conventional pizzas is the tomato sauce. Instead of a thin layer of sauce, I use a very thick layer. Also, the sauce is primarily diced tomatoes or chopped up stewed tomatoes, along with some tomato paste, pizza spices, and olive oil. Tomato paste is naturally so sweet that I don't need to add any sugar, although I add stevia when using certain ingredients. To make the pizza more creamy and nutritious, I add 1 or 2 gelled eggs to the sauce, or on top of it. Also note how orange the yolk is. The fork is yellow. The eggs with the dark orange yolk seem to taste better. Or is it my imagination? Some farms boast that they put their chickens on a vegetarian diet, but chickens are not vegetarians. It would be nice if some people who raise chickens would do some experiments to find out what is affecting the color of the yolk and the flavor of the egg. Anyway, by making this pizza in a bowl rather than on a flat plate, I can add another layer of bread and then add more sauce, creating a double-layer bowl pizza. Here is a double-layer bowl pizza in which I mix the gelled egg into the sauce, which makes the sauce look slightly orange. I also like these pizzas with Kalamata olives. Here is a double-layer bowl pizza with gelled eggs and a chili sauce with beans and corn and a bit of feta cheese on top. And here is a chili pizza with chopped baby spinach on the first layer. I rarely put cheese on my pizzas because I think mozzarella cheese has a bland flavor, and most other cheeses are slimy and sticky. If I am in the mood for cheese, my preference is to sprinkle a small amount of slimy cheese on the top, such as Parmesan, ricotta, or feta. Now for the bowl pizza that I've been eating almost every day. It's made from frozen plum juice. My plum tree produces a lot of plums, so I peeled some of them, removed the seeds, and heated them to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. I poured the juice into plastic bags and froze them. When I want some plum juice, I cut a bag into pieces, I take a couple chunks of the frozen plum juice and I add a spoonful of sugar and a bit of salt. I make 2 gelled eggs, even though some people insist that this is the wrong way to cook eggs. And I mix the eggs into the plum juice. This makes a creamy plum egg sauce. Then I lay 1 piece of bread into the bowl and pour some sauce on it. And then I put another piece of bread on it and pour the rest of the sauce over it. This creates a double-layer bowl pizza with a plum egg sauce. It might seem strange to mix eggs with plum juice, but I suppose the reason I like it is because these plums are the variety that are somewhat tart. I suppose it is the same reason we enjoy putting vinegar into salad dressings, mayonnaise, and other sauces. This type of pizza is like a dessert, but it's a real meal because it's made with freshly ground whole grains, so the bread is nutritious, and the plum sauce is almost entirely fruit and eggs. There's very little sugar other than what is naturally in the plums, since the whole grains and eggs contain a lot of fat. I don't feel any craving to add additional fat. One reason I like the bowl pizzas is that we cannot pick them up with our hands, so we're forced to eat them with a fork or spoon, which should cause us to eat them at a slower pace, which in turn allows us to enjoy them for a longer period of time. When we eat food with our hands, we have a tendency to take larger bites and eat at a faster pace. We also make more of a mess on the plate and our face and hands. Now consider that the sauce for a pizza can also be made with nuts and chocolate, or nuts and carob. There are a lot of people who like Nutella, but take a look at the ingredients. It is primarily sugar, palm oil, and hazelnuts. The hazelnuts are almost 60% oil, so that means the primary ingredients are sugar and oil. When you make your own nut sauce, you can control the levels of sugar and fat. I'll give you an example. I enjoy the flavor of this light brown raw carob powder that comes from Australia, rather than the dark brown carob powder that the American companies are selling. Here is some raw carob powder, a small amount of salt, a spoonful of sugar, some sprouted sunflower seeds, and some sprouted oats. I pulverized this mixture in a blender. The nuts have a lot of oil in them, so the only way you can pulverize nuts is to include a lot of dry, powdery material to soak up the oil, such as cocoa powder, carob powder, oats, or powdered sugar. Then I put this mixture into some warm water to make a sauce. And to make the sauce even more creamy and nutritious, I add a gelled egg to it. Then I pour it over some freshly baked bread that I made from freshly ground grains. This is a meal that is truly nutritious. In addition to tasting like a dessert, I also like this with pumpkin seeds, and I love a sauce made with crushed walnuts and maple syrup. This is a double-layer bowl pizza with a sunflower oatmeal carob egg sauce. When the raw Spanish peanuts become available at the beginning of winter, I roast a spoonful in a hot air popcorn popper until they turn a light brown. Then let them cool off and then pulverize them with cocoa powder or carob powder. This creates a warm sauce that resembles a Reese's peanut butter cup. But since the peanuts are freshly roasted, the peanut flavor is much more intense. Also, there is much less sugar and fat in the version I make, so the flavor of the peanuts, cocoa, or carob are more noticeable. Furthermore, since this is a warm sauce rather than a cold piece of candy, the flavors are more intense and you don't need as much sugar. Some people might respond that a conventional chocolate cake tastes a lot better than my bowl pizza with a chocolate sauce. I agree. I'm not claiming that my bowl pizzas are the best tasting. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the foods that we like the best tend to be primarily sugar and oil. I am not making these bowl pizzas because they taste better than other pizzas. Rather, I make them because they are truly nutritious meals and they are very easy to make because they don't require much preparation or cleanup. As another video shows, it is extremely easy to make these flat pieces of bread. I don't get dough or flour all over the kitchen, and making gelled eggs is extremely easy because there's nothing to clean up afterwards. You'll get a better tasting pizza or chocolate cake when you make it with white flour rather than whole grain flour, and when the sauce is primarily sugar and oil. Take a look at the recipe for a chocolate cake. The recipes have about an equal volume of white flour and sugar. They also have a lot of oil. The typical icing has an even higher percentage of sugar and oil, and that includes cream cheese icing. This recipe has 3 cups of sugar in the cake and 7 to 8 cups of sugar in the icing. It makes 16 servings, which means that each serving is about 2/3 of a cup of sugar. This recipe uses 4 eggs, which is more than most cake recipes, but each slice provides only 1/4 of an egg. By comparison, my bowl pizzas have 1 or 2 eggs per serving. My bowl pizzas also have significantly less sugar. I sweetened only some of the sauces, and I used stevia to reduce the need for sugar even further. You can also make a bowl pizza with an enchilada sauce, or taco ingredients, or a curry sauce. And you can make the crust of the pizza with corn kernels to give it a corn flavor. Another advantage to these bowl pizzas is that you make the bread separate from the sauce, and that lets you use different cooking times and temperatures for the sauce. This allows you to make a sauce that would be overcooked if you put it onto the raw dough, such as sauces that contain gelled eggs, avocado, or fruit. It also lets you make sauces that require a long cooking time, such as sauces with potatoes or beans.